Hey, good people, this is your NI Dom back with another reflection, and this is a personal journal for contemplative people looking to think, grow, and have impact in the world. So, hey, I am thinking about the INTJ conflict, and I believe it's inside of a larger uh, reflection that I want to do this weekend. I am recording this on a Thursday morning before work. And true to season 3, so far so good. I have been doing my longer reflections with you on the weekend. And I believe the INTJ conflict is part of a larger reflection I'm going to do. At least that's what I'm thinking now. And because I'm recording this for YouTube, I only have 15 minutes, which is great. It's great because I'm not ready to delve into the deeper reflection. And I don't have time to do it. So that's what I want to talk about quickly. This thing is relating to the INTJ conflict and how it's impacted me in my current life. Before I jump into that, let me just say, if anybody is new to this project, this is a personal journal. I've already said that, where I process my inner and my outer worlds. I primarily use personality theory to do that. The two that I use the most are the Myers-Briggs. In that system, there are 16 types, personality types, and I'm an INTJ in that system. I also use the Enneagram, and there are 9 types in that system. And there I am a type 8. Bringing those together as an INTJ 8, I also identify as an African American woman from a lower socioeconomic background and from intergenerational trauma. I'm a trained social scientist and educator, and I've been a degreed professional for about 28 years. Not about 28 years. And in half of that time, I've done leadership. All of that is going to influence how I do my reflections, how I show up in the world, and for those of you who are into typology, how you experience me as an INTJ or as a type 8. So all of my experiences come together and they come through this project as I'm making meaning in the world. All right, let me jump right into this. So, if you've been following me, you know that I've taken a new job. So we are in week 3. Nope, 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 nope. 1, 2. Yep. Yes, this is, no, this is week 4. So anyway, hold on. No, this is week 3. I'm sorry. And 85% of the time so far, I have just been basking in the awesomeness of the opportunity. I'm not going to say the job is awesome just because there is something else I'm supposed to be doing in the world, but it's awesome because of where I'm at in my life. I'm not ready to do the other thing, or the other thing isn't fully ready. So in the meantime, this is almost like the perfect job. So it's perfect because it brings my two disciplines together as a social scientist and as an educator. So it brings my two jobs together. It also gives me the space, at least right now, to control my schedule and to create a schedule, because I am motivated by schedules, but I love the idea of creating my own schedule too. And it gives me some sky time. Um, when I'm stuck inside of a building for too long, especially in the winter months, that can be problematic for me. So getting out and having some sun time or sky time is also helpful. So all of this is great. Great, great, great. Here's the problem. And one other part of this that's great is that my supervisors they don't micromanage. My God, that's great. And they are open to me teaching them, or at least sharing with them. Um, okay, let me leave. that's part of the complication of what I'm dealing with. So let's just say they're open to allowing me to bring to the table what I can bring to the table, at least bringing to the table. There's a little bit of complication there, but I'll unpack that later. Here's the problem. So all of that awesomeness, right? Not being micromanaged, being able to show up as a knower, right? I'm a knower as an INT, as an NIDOM. I'm a perceiver, and you take that and you couple that with a T. I'm a knower. Like I show up in the world as a doer, but ultimately I'm a knower. And this is really interesting because as a knower, my knowing is actually more private. Now I watch other INTJs, content creators, particularly on YouTube, and they don't identify as that. They don't identify as a private knower. So I don't know what they would think about me saying I'm a knower privately. But I don't relish in giving information. Let me say it differently. I don't relish in knowing for other people. My knowing is for me. And it's for me to take action effectively, to get things done and to do it well. And there is a competitive side of me. So I don't want to share what I know because ultimately I want to compete with what I know. But there are times when I willingly share what I know because that's a love language for me. I don't just give that knowing to anybody. I talked last weekend about how I don't cook. I can cook and I will cook. But when I do cook, it's an act of loving on. So that's how my knowing is. It's an act of when I share it, it's because I'm being generous and kind. I don't have to. And so I was talking to one of my colleagues, and she feels that knowing is a PowerPoint. And it is. But when she shares, she wants, it's about building her credibility. And I said, no, that's not what I share. I build credibility by getting results, by achieving, getting results, producing what I'm going to produce in a competitive manner. That's my PowerPoint. So all of that comes back to this knowing. All right. And here's the struggle because this is the part of the job that's not awesome. It wasn't awesome a year ago in the other job. 2 years ago, it was okay because I had a supervisor that wanted to know more than I knew. So she didn't want me to bring my knowing to the table. That was perfect. Now, my coworker wanted me to bring my knowing to the table, and sometimes that was complicated, but most of the time it was perfect. It was okay because we had to work together to produce results. So when I would share my knowing with her, it was ultimately about producing. It was about production in which I was a part of and she was a part of. So that was fine. Sometimes it would be a little bit of a sting for me, but for the most part, there was victory, or the glory for me, or the awesomeness for me was in the production of what we were producing and how we looked competitive in the entire organization. And that was fine. Okay. So 2 years ago, my private knowing was not a problem. Last year, my private knowing became a problem. And now this year, I'm feeling like it's a problem. And interestingly enough, I didn't hit the record button to talk about my private knowing, but I wonder if that's what's underneath the tension and the conflict that I'm dealing with that I thought I was going to process later this weekend. All right. So when my current coworker said, "Oh, I would think that you would want to share your knowing, because that gives you power, because people know that you know." I'm like, no, that's not the power I want. I feel exploited. I actually feel exploited when I share my knowing that allows other people to be competitive. That feels like I'm being exploited. And another way I've said it is that it feels like I'm being raped. It's like you're taking a core part of me that's very personal, and then you're using it to do something in the world that I can't do. So, how does this connect to the INTJ conflict? And like I said, I realize I haven't been talking about the INTJ conflict. At least I don't think, because I have never heard another INTJ talking about being a private knower. I've never heard him say that. I don't always want to share with you what I'm perceiving and unpacking and understanding and organizing. I don't want to give that to you. That's not for you. And at the end of season 2, I entertain the idea of how I can relate or not to the INTP. But I would imagine that an INTP doesn't have a conflicted relationship with knowing, even though their knowing is generated introverted like I am, like an NI. Their TI dominance and their NI dominance is inward. I believe that P makes them want to share that more so than the J is going to want to have. I want power in terms of how I want it to impact. My knowing is going to impact the world around me. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what you guys think. But let me just end here, because I'm going to give you something about this conflict. INTJs usually have a conflict because they usually know more than their supervisors. Usually. They prefer when they don't know more than their supervisors. Because here's why. INTJs don't really want to lead. We don't want to be out in front. But it's hard for us to be under a leader, or to follow leadership when a leadership doesn't know more. I don't know if it's knowing more or if it's about doing the job well. I don't want to be in a situation where I'm not doing the job well, that I'm doing the job wrong, that I'm wasting my time, that I'm making the work more difficult than it needs to be. So that's the conflict. I don't really want to lead. I don't want to be out in front leading. So maybe if you give me a private leadership role, you know, like a behind the curtains kind of leadership role, yes, that I can do all day, every day. But being out in front of people, that's not what I want to do. I don't really want to do that. I don't. But I have, and I will continue to do that, because what I don't want to do more is to be connected to either incompetence, immaturity, or wastefulness. Sometimes people aren't incompetent or immature, but they're wasteful. They have not learned how to refine their work. They haven't refined their work. So we're doing extra, and we don't need to do the extra. And so that's the conflict. And so as I bring closure here, just curious for me, that conflict of not wanting to follow a leader who is not yet refined. I'm going to say it that way. That's the best way to say it. Who's not yet refined in the area that I'm refined, yet not wanting to get out in front and do leadership. But again, I'm more ready to do leadership than I am ready to follow behind inexperience. But I haven't taken on I haven't applied for a leadership position because I don't really want to do it. So that might be the end answer for me. But in the meantime, I'm in a situation where I know more, and my supervisors want me to share, as opposed to, they're not asking me to follow them, they're asking me to share. But I don't want to share because my sharing is private. My knowing is private. You guys, it's been a pleasure hanging out with you. I have to go. There's no assignment for these YouTube reflections. But until I come back, be well. Bye.